Have you ever lost important files from Nextcloud? I got you covered. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a rock-solid backup system for Nextcloud. We will configure weekly full backups and daily incremental backups, so you never have to worry about losing your data anymore. By the end of the video, you will have a bulletproof backup system ready to go. Let's jump right in. First, we're going to create an environment file so we don't have to write our passwords into the actual scripts. Vim, let's create it in root, and we call the file backup env. The little dot at the beginning makes it invisible. Okay, let me paste this right in. And what this is we're going to define a backup directory. Let's just make it backup and then Nextcloud YouTube. And then we're going to tell it what's the database container, what's the name of the database, that's Nextcloud, the database user, that's root, and then you're going to pass in the password for your database user for your MySQL. And also we need to tell it what's the Nextcloud volume. The Nextcloud volume we can check with docker volume ls, and the Nextcloud volume for me would be this one. So let me just copy this, jump up, and then paste this in here. And the container, for me, the container of my database is nextcloud_db. The database file itself, it's called Nextcloud, and the database user for MySQL is root. And the password I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to write it in here. After this is all done, we're going to save this up. And I forgot to mention, as always, you can find every file and every command that we're using today in the description down below for download. So next step is we're going to make this file only accessible to the root user. So we saved it in root, and it's called, I forgot the dot, backup env, so only the root user can access this and no one else can read our passwords and whatever we defined in there. And now we can already start with the actual script. So we're going to create a new file in user local bin Nextcloud full backup. And don't forget the .sh in the end. Of course, I already prepared this, so let me just paste this in, and then we go through it line by line. If this is your first time doing anything with bash scripting, it always begins in line 1 with bin bash and the exclamation point to tell the script which terminal to use. After that, we're going to define as the source our backup YouTube env file, so it will know the environment variables. Then we're going to set up some additional variables in here. The backup directory will be the backup directory that we defined in our env file, and we just append data on it. The same with our database backup directory. And then we're going to make a log file. Actually, I want this log file to have YT at the end. And then we're going to define the date in here too. Then what the script does next is it will create a backup directory and the database backup directory if they don't yet exist already. After that, it will just write in our log file that the full backup started, and then it will start with the actual full backup. For that, we're going to run a Docker container with the --rm. That means the container will be removed after it's done with its task. And we're going to map 2 volumes inside of it. The first volume is the Nextcloud volume itself. The first volume is the Nextcloud volume itself that we want to back up. And the second volume is the backup directory itself where the backup will be stored. After that, it will run an image with rsync. Rsync is for running backups and also for incremental backups. So it will make a full backup and it will call the directory full dash and then the date of the backup itself. After that, it will create a symbolic link, or it will first remove the old symbolic link if there is one, and then it will create a new symbolic link from the full backup called latest full. This one will be used to create the incremental backups. Then it will do a MySQL dump. For that, we don't need any Docker containers. It will just write into the log file that it will do the MySQL dump right now. And then we will just run this docker exec command that it will go inside the database container and then run the command MySQL dump with the database user, which is root, and the password, which is in our env file. And then it will get the database name, which in our case is Nextcloud. And then it will just dump this database file into our database directory and name it Nextcloud DB full and also append the date on it. And then it will be a .sql file. So it's really easy to use some MySQL commands to restore this database. And in the end of the script, it will just delete every old full backup if it's older than 30 days, but you can define that however you like. If you want only 15 days because you want to save some space, because every full backup will be the same size as your actual Nextcloud. So it makes sense not to save them for indefinitely. But anyway, what it's doing is it will find the inside the data backup directory with the name full dash and then the date. And then if it's older than 30 days, it will execute the command remove. And also with the backup directory, it will check for Nextcloud DB full and also the date at the end. And if it's older than 30 days, then it will be removed. But you can also do 7 days or 8 days, however you like that. I'll keep mine on 30 just for now. And then in the end, it will just log again that the backup is finished. And then what I like to do is just get some dashes in here. So in the log file itself, I can really see that where one backup starts and one backup ends. So it's easier to read. Once we're done here, we can save this, and then we need to make this file executable with chmod. We just plus exit, and now it's an executable script. So there was a first script for our full backup, and now we can write our script for our incremental backup. For that, we're just going to use incremental. This file name, let's check if it's correct. Yes. And I also prepared this beforehand, so I will just paste this in here. And in here, it's the same. It's similar to the first script. It starts with bin bash, as every script does. We need to load our environment variables. We set up a backup directory, a database backup directory, also the log file, which I need to change into this one here, so it will write into the same log. And then the incremental backup, it will start with checking if there is a full backup, because it can't do an incremental backup if it doesn't know the full backup. So it will check first if there is a backup directory called latest full. And if it doesn't exist, then it will log that there is no full backup found, and we should run full backup.sh first, and then it will exit with error code 1. But in our case, or let's hope that will never be the case. And then if there is a latest full directory, then it will continue making a new directory. Again, if it doesn't exist already, the data backup directory and the database backup directory, and then it will log that the incremental backup started. And for the incremental backup, we're going to run a Docker container again with --rm, so it will be removed after it's done with the backup, so it won't occupy any more space and resources from our server. And we will pass through 3 volumes this time. First, the Nextcloud volume itself, then the backup directory where the Nextcloud backup will be stored, and also it will have as a volume the latest full backup, and it will be in a preview or previous location and will run in this rsync command. It will compare the Nextcloud volume with the latest full backup, and then it will check which files have been changed and which files have been added or deleted, and then it will only back up the changes for that. That's what an incremental backup is. So it's not a really full backup, it's only backing up the changes. So it will run faster, but it will also save a lot of space on your server or wherever you're going to store your backups. And then it will just create a new directory with the current date of the backup. And then again, it will remove the symbolic link if there is one for the data backup directory called latest, and will create a new symbolic link called latest of the current latest backup. And after that, the container will be removed because it's done with its task, and then it will just create a MySQL dump again, just like earlier in the full backup. It will log that there will be an incremental backup, and then it will just create or execute the same command, the docker exec database container will run MySQL dump as the database user, which is root, with the password, the root password, and the database name, which will be Nextcloud, because that's the only one that we are interested in our Nextcloud. And then it will make a Nextcloud DB, append the date at the end, and then it will be a .sql file again. And then we will delete the incremental backups that are older than 7 days. So you can always go back 1 week. That's a 7 generation backup, but you can also do 14, 21, 15, 16, 17, whatever you like. You just adjust this number in here, and then you have multiple or more or less generations, however many you want. And then it will just log again that the incremental backup is done, and then at the end again the dashes, so it's nice and clean. So we can save this as well, and we need to make this executable as well. So we're going to run chmod plus x for the Nextcloud full incremental yt.sh file. So now those two scripts are already ready to use, but obviously we don't want to log in our server every day, every night to run those scripts by hand. So we're going to create a cron job for that. And for that, we're going to create a file in here, and let's call it nx backup underscore yt. We don't need a file extension. And of course, I prepared this as well. The first entry defines when the full backup will run. That's at 2 a.m. at every Sunday. 0 is Sunday. It will run it as the root user, and then it will run here our location, the Nextcloud full backup underscore yt.sh file that we created. And the incremental backup will run every day except on Sunday at 2 a.m. as well. So this one is here, 2 a.m. And then 1 to 6 is every day except Sunday, which is 0. And then it will just run this command as root the incremental backup underscore yt.sh. Then we can save this. And now we can either wait for the cron job to work, or we can run our scripts by hand, which we will do. Nextcloud underscore full backup yt yt.sh. It will start it, and you can see it will get every file here and will run a complete backup of this Nextcloud instance. It will take a while. Okay, the script is done, and it told us here that it did a full backup of the MySQL. It did a full backup of the Docker volume as well, and it also shows you how many bytes have been received and processed. And in here, if we go to our backup location, we see there is our database directory, a data directory, and our log. We can check the log first. There shouldn't be that much in here. It will log the date and time, and then that it started, and the MySQL full backup, and then when it finished everything. So if we go into data, we will see like this, sorry. We will see there is our full backup, just like how we defined in our script, full with the date and also a symbolic link to this called latest full to this full backup. If we change into full, in here we have data, for example, and then in here we have everyone that joined my Nextcloud demo. So it did a full backup of this Nextcloud. And now to test the incremental backup, what we can do is go in here, and then I will just create a new file, a new spreadsheet, for example, call it incremental backup test. We create it, it will load, and then in here we have our spreadsheet. I don't like the dark mode in here, so I will just write something in here so it's more than just 1 kilobyte big. Let's save it. By the way, this is Collabora. If you don't have it in your Nextcloud yet, check this video here, how to set it up for your own Nextcloud. And now we can try out the script for the incremental backup. But before that, if you like my videos and my content, then please leave a like and consider subscribing for more videos like this. It really helps out small channels like mine. Thank you so much. The script for the incremental backup is called Nextcloud. I just realized I made a naming mistake here. This one should be called not full incremental. It should be called Nextcloud incremental backup yt.sh. Yeah, that looks more correct. So Nextcloud incremental backup ytsh. That's the correct one. Let's run it. And you can see it's much faster, and then it should show us somewhere here. This is the file it backed up, the incremental backup test xlsx, and it's already done with the incremental backup. Okay, I had to do a minor adjustment in the script. I will show you, but it will be available for download anyway. So before I run the Docker container, I create the backup directory with the date as its name, and then in here this backup directory will be mapped through into the container, so it will save the changed files in there. And now when you run it, it will check which files are new. In here it shows you new document, for example, is new. And then if you go in here, now we have this folder here. We can change into that. What's in here? The same one again. And in here we have our data. I think mine is called capital S. And in here we can go into files. It should be in documents. And in here is the new document that we just created, and all the other ones are not in there because they haven't changed. And of course you can run additional scripts to save those backups onto a different server, or you can just define the directories where the backup will be saved into on a mount point from a different server, so you don't save your backup on the actual server itself, so it will be much safer that way. And now let's also create a script that will help us restore the data if ever it's needed. So for that, we're just going to create a Nextcloud restore backup script, and this script is prepared as well. And what this does is it will just create a restore directory. You need to tell it where are the backup files, and then of course we need a log just for some troubleshooting. Then it will log that the backup restore started, and then it will restore the full backup. So it will take the latest full backup, restore it into the restore directory, and then for each incremental backup that is available, it will just keep on restoring those backups. So you will get the latest full backup from Sunday, then it will use the incremental backup from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on. Everything that it could find to create the latest possible backup for your files, and then you can just put them in a new Docker volume or wherever you want, so you can restore your Nextcloud. And of course you need to make this executable. Change mod plus X. If ever you need to, you can just run this command and it will do its thing. Now your Nextcloud is fully protected with automated full and incremental backups. Your data is safe. And if still anything goes wrong, the restore script will get you back up and running in no time. Let me know in the comments down below how you run your backups, and don't forget to subscribe for more Nextcloud, Linux and Docker videos. You can click here on the screen to watch my full Nextcloud playlist. Thanks for watching. See you next time.